In the shadowed corners of certain subcultures, a concept persists, the idea that human attraction, one of life's most profound and mysterious experiences, can be reduced to a reliable, Machiavellian process. This is the promise of the seductive process. A systematic blueprint to engineer not just attraction, but obsession, transforming another human being into an object of conquest and control. This is dark psychology and Machiavellian strategy. This is not a guide to love. It is a manual of predation. At its core, this process borrows from the darkest strands of Machiavellianism. A pillar of the dark triad alongside narcissism and psychopathy, is characterized by a cold, pragmatic, and manipulative approach to social interactions, where other people are viewed as pawns to be used for personal gain. Dark psychology is the study of these very tendencies, the tools and tactics used to coerce, manipulate, and exploit others, often while bypassing their conscious awareness. While the tactical steps of this seductive process can be identified and, tragically, are often effective in creating short-term infatuation or debilitating dependency, they are fundamentally antithetical to genuine human connection. They are a recipe for emotional trauma, a corruption of intimacy, and a path that leads the practitioner into a hollow, inauthentic existence. To understand this process is not to arm oneself for use, but to inoculate oneself and others against it. We dissect this pathology not to emulate it, but to expose its mechanics, reveal its inevitable consequences, and champion the profound alternative of authentic relationship building. Phase 1, the foundation and target selection, the hunter's calibration. Before the first word is spoken, the Machiavellian seducer operates from a foundational mindset that shapes every subsequent interaction. This is not the nervous excitement of potential romance, it is the calculated calm of a hunter surveying a terrain. The predator's mindset, emotional detachment is the primary weapon. The practitioner views the entire social field as a game of chess, and potential partners as pieces to be moved or captured. Emotions like empathy, guilt, or genuine vulnerability are seen as weaknesses to be suppressed in oneself and exploited in others. The goal is not mutual joy but personal victory. The conquest itself becomes the reward, a validation of one's own power and skill. Vulnerability assessment. The soft target the hunter does not pursue indiscriminately. Efficiency is key. They are subconsciously or consciously scanning for indicators of high exploitability. These often include low self-esteem. Individuals who externalize their sense of worth are prime targets, as they will seek validation from an outside source. High agreeableness and empathy. A strong desire to please and a heightened sensitivity to others' emotions can be twisted into a tool for guilt and obligation. Recent trauma or loss. Those in emotionally raw or transitional states crave stability and comfort, which the manipulator can feign providing. Idealistic or naive worldviews. A deep belief in fate or love at first sight makes one more susceptible to the intense, storybook narrative the manipulator will craft. Persona creation. The mask authenticity is the enemy of control. Based on the initial assessment, the manipulator crafts a bespoke persona. A mask. If the target values intellectual depth, the mask will be contemplative and quote philosophy. If they seek adventure, the mask will be spontaneous and worldly. If they crave nurturing, the mask will be exceptionally attentive and kind. This is not a gradual reveal of a true self, it is a strategic performance designed to reflect the target's deepest desires back at them, creating an instant, and utterly false, sense of resonance. It is the bait perfectly tailored to the prey. Phase 2, generating intense interest, the art of the calculated spark. With the mask in place, the process shifts to active engagement. The goal here is not simply to be liked, but to create a potent, almost addictive, sense of interest and intrigue that bypasses rational scrutiny. Strategic self-disclosure. The illusion of intimacy. Genuine intimacy is built on the slow, mutual, and risky sharing of one's true self. The manipulator uses a corrupted version of this. They offer carefully selected vulnerabilities. Stories of past pain, secret dreams, or perceived flaws. These disclosures are not authentic, they are calculated to appear vulnerable, thereby triggering the target's empathy and trust, while simultaneously painting the manipulator as deep, complex, and trusting of them. It's a counterfeit bond, advanced rapidly to create a false sense of unique closeness. Mirroring and rapport engineering, we are naturally drawn to those who seem like us. The manipulator weaponizes this principle through meticulous mirroring. They subtly match the target's speech patterns, vocabulary, body language, and even breathing rate. They express ardent agreement with the target's values and passions, whether genuine or not. The effect is subconscious but powerful. The target feels an uncanny sense of being understood and in sync with someone who feels strangely familiar. Like we've known each other for years. This is not rapport, it is mimicry designed to feel like fate. The principles of scarcity and mystery, human desire is amplified by perceived unattainability. The manipulator meticulously controls their availability. They are responsive and engaging, then suddenly withdraw. They may cancel plans last minute with a vague, intriguing excuse. Communication is inconsistent. Intense texting followed by radio silence. This triggers anxiety and preoccupation in the target, whose brain, craving the dopamine hit of the manipulator's attention, begins to obsessively fill in the blanks. The manipulator becomes a puzzle to be solved, an object of increasing mental real estate. Mystery is maintained by never fully revealing intentions or feelings, keeping the target off balance and invested in seeking clarity. Creating the spark, push-pull dynamics. The romantic spark is often just emotional arousal. The manipulator engineers this through push-pull, a cycle of reward and punishment, warmth and chill. They might offer effusive praise, "You're incredible, I've never met anyone like you," followed by mild, confusing criticism or detachment. Or they will advance intensely, then pull back, citing fear of getting hurt. This creates a roller coaster of validation and insecurity, which the brain interprets as passion. The target, now addicted to the high of the pull moments, works harder to secure the manipulator's approval, mistaking this anxiety-ridden cycle for exciting chemistry. Phase 3, Deepening emotional investment. The construction of dependency. Once the hook is set, the focus shifts from generating interest to securing it. The goal is to move the target from liking to needing, transforming their emotional world to center around the manipulator. Subtle isolation, the center of the universe. Overt isolation is a red flag. The skilled manipulator works subtly. They become the target's primary confidant, the one who really gets them. They may gently undermine other relationships. "Your friend seems kind of jealous of our connection," or monopolize time with escalating demands for attention. "I had a terrible day, I just need to talk to you for hours." Gradually, the target's support network erodes, and the manipulator positions themselves as the sole source of understanding, advice, and emotional sustenance. To question the manipulator feels like questioning one's only lifeline. Idealization and love bombing, the addictive high. This is one of the most potent and devastating tools. The manipulator overwhelms the target with affection, admiration, time, and future promises. It is a torrent of attention, constant communication, extravagant gifts, declarations of being soulmates, and rapid talk of a shared future, moving in, marriage, family. For a target, especially one with unmet emotional needs, this feels like a dream come true. However, its purpose is not love, it is to create addiction. The target becomes chemically and emotionally dependent on this intense validation. The manipulator is establishing a new baseline for love. One of constant, overwhelming adoration. That they will later control by strategically withdrawing. Creating functional dependency. "I'll fix it for you." Beyond emotional needs, the manipulator seeks to make themselves indispensable. They eagerly solve the target's problems, offer to handle stressful tasks, or provide expert guidance in areas of the target's life. They become the financial advisor, the career coach, the therapist, the crisis manager. This serves two purposes: it ingratiates them further, and it fosters a sense of helplessness in the target. The subtle message is, "You need me to navigate the world. Without me, you'll fail." Cognitive dissonance and intermittent reinforcement, the slot machine effect. This is the psychological engine of addiction. Once the target is hooked on the love-bombing high, the manipulator begins to mix rewards with punishments unpredictably. One day they are loving and attentive, reward; the next, they are cold, critical, or absent, punishment. This is intermittent reinforcement, the same mechanism that makes slot machines so addictive. The target, confused and desperate to return to the earlier blissful state, redoubles their efforts to please, rationalizing the bad behavior. They're just stressed. I must have done something wrong. If I try harder, the good version will come back. This cycle systematically breaks down the target's trust in their own perceptions and entrenches their dependence on the manipulator's fluctuating moods. Phase 4, Cultivating Obsession and Control, the Architecture of a Prison. The final stage is the consolidation of power. Interest has been transformed into investment, and now that investment is leveraged to create a state of obsession. A psychological prison where the target's freedom is willingly surrendered. Undermining the autonomous self, the erosion project. To ensure the target's world remains centered on them, the manipulator must dismantle the target's independent identity. This is done through a death by 1,000 cuts campaign of subtle degradation disguised as concern or love. They might criticize the target's appearance. You'd be so beautiful if you dressed differently; mock their opinions, that's a cute, simple way of looking at things; devalue their accomplishments, anyone could have done that; or pathologize their emotions, you're so oversensitive, it's not normal. The goal is to erode self-confidence, making the target doubt their own judgment, taste, and worth. The manipulator positions themselves as the sole arbiter of reality and value. The target, feeling increasingly inadequate, clings tighter to the very person destroying them, seeking the validation they can no longer give themselves. The cycle of crisis and rescue. The hero held hostage. The manipulator engineers scenarios where they are both the source of distress and the heroic savior. They might create drama, a fabricated emotional crisis, a jealous rage over nothing, that consumes the target's emotional energy. Then, they magnanimously resolve it, often after extracting apologies or concessions from the confused target. Alternatively, they may exacerbate the target's existing problems and then be the only one who can calm or fix them. This reinforces a terrifying duality in the target's mind: the manipulator is both the greatest threat to their peace and the only source of it. This binds the target in a Stockholm Syndrome-like attachment to their captor. Gaslighting and reality distortion. The war on perception. When the target begins to question the manipulation, or points out contradictory or hurtful behavior, the manipulator employs gaslighting. They flatly deny events that occurred. I never said that. Trivialize the target's feelings. You're being hysterical over nothing. Blame the target for their own abuse. You made me do this because you're so difficult. And reframe cruelty as love. I'm hard on you because I care and want you to be better. Over time, this systematic invalidation causes the target to mistrust their own memory, judgment, and sanity. To preserve their crumbling sense of reality, they often surrender entirely to the manipulator's narrative. It is the ultimate form of control, making the prisoner guard the door to their own cell. The obsession achieved, this is the end state of the process. The target is now psychologically enmeshed. Their mental energy is consumed with monitoring the manipulator's moods, avoiding triggers, and striving to earn back the idealized love-bombing phase. They are isolated, their self-esteem shattered, and their reality dictated by another. This is not love, it is a state of traumatic bonding. A powerful, addictive attachment to the source of one's own pain. The manipulator has secured not a partner, but a captive audience, a source of narcissistic supply, and a monument to their own perceived power. The consequences: the inevitable collapse. A relationship built on a foundation of manipulation, inauthenticity, and control is architecturally unsound. Its collapse is not a matter of if, but when and how destructively. For the target, the walking wounded, the emotional and psychological damage is severe and long-lasting. Victims often emerge with complex PTSD. Symptoms include hypervigilance, anxiety, depression, flashbacks, and emotional dysregulation. Shattered self-esteem and identity crisis. Rebuilding a sense of self after systematic erosion is a years-long process. Damaged ability to trust. future relationships are viewed through a lens of fear and suspicion, making healthy intimacy difficult. Cognitive dissonance and confusion, untangling the manipulator's lies from reality can feel impossible, leaving a lingering sense of crazy. A distorted blueprint for love, the target may confuse anxiety, drama, and obsession for passion, unknowingly seeking out similar dynamics in the future. For the manipulator, the hollow victory, the practitioner of this process pays a steep, if less visible, price. Inauthentic existence, living behind a series of masks leads to a profound emptiness and a lack of genuine identity. They become a collection of performances with no core self. Incapacity for genuine intimacy, they lose the ability to connect vulnerably and authentically. Every relationship becomes a power game, leaving them perpetually lonely amidst their conquests. Paranoia and emotional sterility, viewing the world as a battlefield breeds constant suspicion and a defensive, joyless existence. True empathy and joy become inaccessible. Social and reputational blowback, patterns of exploitation often catch up, leading to social ostracization, professional consequences, or even legal trouble. The relationship's fate, these dynamics cannot sustain a functional partnership. They lead to one of three outcomes. 1. The explosive discard. Once the target is depleted or the manipulator is bored, they are often discarded callously and suddenly, leaving the target utterly devastated. 2. The toxic endurance, a cyclical pattern of idealization, devaluation, and discard continues for years, a private hell for both parties. 3. The consumptive collapse, the target's breakdown or the manipulator's overreach leads to a dramatic, mutually destructive finale. The ethical contrast, from dark psychology to enlightened connection. Understanding this dark process allows us to clearly define its radiant opposite. Genuine, healthy attraction is not a process of engineering obsession, but a practice of fostering secure attachment. The pillars of genuine attraction and love. Authenticity, presenting one's true self, flaws and all, without strategic performance. Mutual respect, honoring the other person's autonomy, boundaries, and right to their own thoughts and feelings. Vulnerability with boundaries, sharing oneself gradually and reciprocally, without using disclosure as a tactical tool. Enthusiastic consent, a continuous, mutual yes that is freely given, not coerced through pressure or manipulation. Clear, kind communication, expressing needs and resolving conflicts openly and with care for the other's well-being. Building a healthy bond, this is a natural, organic process. It involves mutual curiosity, shared experiences, reciprocal support, and the patient, joyful discovery of another person. Investment grows naturally from consistent, positive interactions, not from engineered dopamine spikes or manufactured drama. It is a collaboration, not a conquest. Red flags and self-protection, arm yourself with awareness, not tactics. Key red flags include too much, too soon, intense declarations and future planning in the early stages. You feel crazy or confused, if you constantly question your memory or sanity after interactions. Your support network shrinks, the partner dislikes or criticizes your friends and family. Hot and cold behavior, inconsistent attention and affection that creates anxiety. Everything seems to revolve around them, your needs, stories, and problems are consistently minimized or redirected back to them. The antidote is a strong sense of self-worth, firm personal boundaries, and the courage to walk away at the first signs of a process, not a person. Conclusion: the choice between power and love. The seductive process from interest to obsession is not a sophisticated art of romance, it is a predatory practice of psychological warfare. It is a pathology that trades the profound mystery and joy of human connection for the sterile thrill of control. It confuses the intense anxiety of intermittent reinforcement for passion, and the debilitating dependency of trauma bonding for love. Ultimately, this path offers a Faustian bargain: you may gain a form of power over another, but you forfeit your own capacity for authentic happiness and connection. You become an architect of prisons, including your own. True connection. The kind that nurtures, inspires, and endures. Cannot be manufactured through dark psychology. It is built in the daylight of integrity, watered by mutual care, and rooted in the courage to be real. In the end, the most powerful choice is not to learn how to make someone obsessed with you, but to become a person capable of a healthy, reciprocal love, and to walk away, without a second glance, from anyone who would rather play a game than build a life. Understanding the darkness is valuable only in so far as it guides us more resolutely toward the light.